Welcome to Kaywon Action Star. I honestly can't thank you enough for your support and great motivation. Thank you for tuning in always. I don't take it for granted that you do. So let's get right into it. The movie begins with a security company called Fortico transporting a cash-filled armored truck. Suddenly, a cement truck blocks their path, and a group of robbers appear. They break open the truck's doors and throw in stun grenades, disabling the guards. However, they fail to notice a young boy sitting in a nearby car, witnessing the entire heist. When they finally spot him, they make him get out of the car. Terrified and trembling, the boy attempts to call his father, but his father is already on the phone. Too frightened to resist, he follows their orders to lie down. Meanwhile, as the robbers are transferring the cash, one of the guards fights back, managing to pull off a robber's mask. To protect his identity, the robber shoots and kills the guard, then proceeds to execute the remaining guards, and tragically, the young boy. His father, Patrick Hill, sees his son's murder unfold and charges at the robbers in a desperate attempt to stop them, but he is shot down. As he loses consciousness, he catches a glimpse of the shooter's scarred face. Patrick miraculously survives but spends 3 months recovering in the hospital. Once he heals, he applies for a job at Fortico Security, the same company his son was killed working for. Terry, the manager, informs Patrick that he will be replacing the guards who died but must first pass a series of training assessments. Patrick struggles with the firearms test but barely manages to pass. His new colleagues give him the nickname H, and he meets some of the other guards, including Hollow Bob and Boy Sweat Dave. On their first job together, everything goes smoothly, but the next day, when H and Dave head out for another cash transport, their truck is ambushed by armed robbers. The robbers instruct H to place the money bags into their vehicle, but instead of complying, he deliberately drops one. "Sorry, pal," he mutters before swiftly shooting one of the robbers in the head. His actions are soon scrutinized by Terry, who informs him that he will be assigned to desk duty for at least a month. However, the CEO of Fortico, Blake Halls, is impressed, praising him for his bravery and suggesting that he deserves a promotion. "What you did deserves credit. You're a real hero," Blake tells him. Later, H is called in to review the security footage from the previous robbery to see if he recognizes any of the gunmen. He fixates on one particular robber but ultimately claims that nothing seems familiar. Meanwhile, 2 federal agents working for a superior named Agent King believe that H will lead them to the perpetrators of the first robbery. H resumes his job as usual, earning admiration from his co-workers for his heroism. 3 months later, H and another guard, Bullet, are transporting cash when a bicycle suddenly blocks their path. In an instant, they are surrounded by heavily armed gunmen. "Get down," a voice commands. Smoke grenades are deployed, forcing Bullet to exit the truck. However, when H steps out and reveals his face, the gunmen immediately retreat, abandoning their plan without taking any money. Terry is perplexed by their sudden withdrawal. "So let me get this straight, they just walked away?" he asks, unable to understand why the robbers would leave upon merely seeing H. Blake, however, silences Terry, instructing H that he will now have his own team and should continue his work. That night, Bullet talks with Boy Sweat Dave, describing H as a dark soul. Meanwhile, H breaks into the home of a security guard named Dana. Discovering a large stash of stolen cash in her apartment, he interrogates her, firing shots to instill fear. Terrified, she confesses that she stole money from a job months ago. H then shows her photos of her grieving parents, warning her of the dire consequences if she lies to him. The story then flashes back 5 months earlier. H is seen spending time with his son, Dougie, who is on vacation in the United States. H receives a call from his former criminal associate, Mike, the leader of a gang that H had once been part of. Mike asks H for help with one final job but assures him that he doesn't need to be directly involved and that there's no danger. "You can stand back 1,000 yards, Mike reassures him. H and Dougie drive near the docks where the robbery is set to take place. As H buys food for himself and Dougie, tragedy strikes. H helplessly watches as his son is murdered. H falls into a coma for nearly 3 months and, upon waking, is devastated to learn that Dougie has died. He later meets with his ex-wife, Jane, who blames him for their son's death. Determined to seek revenge, H reunites with Mike and his associates, all of whom played a role in Dougie's murder. "I need to know who pulled the trigger. I want a name," H demands. Mike's organization scours the criminal underworld for information, interrogating one group after another. Eventually, they capture a man who reveals the identities of the criminals responsible. H tracks them down to a building where the brothers operate various illegal activities. When they refuse to give him any useful information, H executes them without hesitation. Noticing a guard who works there, H has his assistant, Kirsty, retrieve documents detailing background checks on security personnel, along with Dougie's autopsy report. The film then introduces the perpetrators of the initial robbery, a group of former Afghan war veterans who struggle to find purpose in America. They are led by a man named Jackson, with Jan, the man who murdered Dougie, as one of his key members. The group is seen planning another heist at a party hosted by Jackson. Their next target is a Fortico cash truck, the very one H and Dougie encountered. As the heist unfolds, Jan spots Dougie watching and orders him to lie down. When Dougie jumps the railing in an attempt to escape, Jan shoots 2 guards before mercilessly executing Dougie and then shooting H. After this robbery, the crew begins preparing for their biggest and final heist, planning to steal over $150 million. Weeks before the job, Jackson and Tom discuss concerns about Jan's unpredictable behavior, but Jackson reassures everyone that Jan will follow orders. The crew infiltrates Fortico with Bullet as their inside men. H soon discovers Bullet's betrayal when Bullet confesses, "They'll kill you if you don't comply." Bullet disables the security cameras, allowing Jackson's heavily armed crew to storm the truck. As they tie up H, the heist goes as planned. "Don't make a sound," one of them warns. But when a guard panics and hits the emergency alarm, chaos erupts. Gunfire fills the air as the crew begins executing everyone in sight. As SWAT teams are alerted and move in, H seizes the moment to grab a weapon, taking down one of his attackers. Clad in bulletproof gear, he makes his way through the carnage, systematically eliminating members of Jackson's crew. Meanwhile, Dana and another guard attempt to fight back but are ambushed. Bullet reveals himself as a traitor, demanding a weapon, but when handed one, he executes both Dana and the other guard. H then engages in a brutal fight with another attacker, ultimately killing him despite being wounded. Jackson's crew attempts to escape, but H continues his assault, ensuring they don't get away. As the robbers flee, H recognizes Jan, the man who killed his son. SWAT and helicopters pursue them, but the crew escapes through an underground tunnel. Jackson, injured from H's gunfire, is later killed by Jan, who betrays the team. Jan and Bullet load the stolen cash onto quad bikes, driving 3 miles to their getaway vehicle. Bullet realizes Jan intends to keep all the money and tries to kill him, but Jan shoots him first. As the police struggle to cover all possible escape routes, Jan manages to disappear with the cash. Later, Jan sits alone in his apartment, surrounded by money, when his phone suddenly rings. He turns around to find H standing there. H tosses Dougie's autopsy report onto the table. Jan reads it and realizes H had been watching him all along. With cold precision, H shoots Jan in the liver, then in the lungs, spleen, and finally the heart, mirroring the exact way Dougie was killed. H then leaves the apartment and meets Agent King, confirming that the job is done. As they discuss the possibility of recovering the stolen money, H gets into a car with an unknown man and drives away, having finally avenged his son. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to this channel for more if you haven't done that yet. And put down your comments below to let me know what you think about the turn of events in this storyline. Also give my video a thumbs up to further motivate me. Share this video for others too to enjoy. And see you on my next recap. Cheers.